Hey guys, it's Jenna. Long week. It's 9 o'clock at night. My kids are in bed. Clint's at the firehouse, my husband, and my cats are roaming around here somewhere. So if you hear any of that in the background, that's what's going on here at my house. My screen's gonna get a little bit crazy on you guys because I am gonna do a little screenshot for you guys for the presentation. This is actually in the Google Drive, the shared drive for you guys. So that's where you can find this. So today what we're going to talk about are the 5 core propositions, architecture of accomplished teaching, and of course establishing a timeline that's hopefully helpful for you guys. So for this virtual meeting, for the second years, it's going to be a review. You guys should pretty much already know this. For the first years, this is really important because it's the foundation for becoming nationally board certified. It's kind of like if the national board had learning objectives, I guess, right? So it's kind of what every good teacher should know and be able to do. So that's what the 5 core propositions and the architecture of accomplished teaching are. It's kind of like the national board objective. So that's why it's going to be so important for you guys to know this. As always, the candidate resources, if you guys need that, just go to that link. That'll help you guys out. If you need any more help, here's a couple more links. And then also my email, of course, always. Just contact me whenever you guys need me. Don't forget to log on to the national board profile. Check for accuracy of your information, that everything's up to date, so that you get any any email blasts or anything that they send out about things you should be doing along the way. One of the things that they're probably going to be sending pretty soon is what's called a reader, where you can submit some of your writings and someone will read it, look over it, and then give you comments on how you can maybe improve your reading before you make your final submission. So that's why it's really important just to make sure that everything is accurate on there. Again, our cohort norms: respect time, participate, support each other, and confidentiality. All right, guys, so here we go. 5 core propositions and architecture of accomplished teaching. Again, this is just really the foundation for becoming nationally board certified. I've put this as a PDF in the shared drive as well. These are just kind of the bullet points, if you will, of the 5 core propositions. And you have your fabulous green book, if you got that at the first meeting. That really dives into a lot of the detail that I'm going to get into for the meeting today. So proposition 1, teachers are committed to students and their learning. So all of your students, you guys have individual stories of their own, right? So this is just really recognizing that your students have individual differences and understanding how your students develop and learn as learners, and just adjusting your class accordingly to that. And then having, so students have different learning styles, they have different backgrounds, they have different interests, all of that. So really just that you know your students in your classroom. Proposition 2, teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. So really, guys, this just means that you're knowledgeable in your area. You guys all went to college. You have your own area of expertise. So again, all of these things they're things that you're doing already. It's just now that you're getting nationally board certified, you kind of have to prove to them on paper, I guess, if you will, that you're a good teacher. So just that you're knowledgeable in your subject area, and that you link your discipline to other disciplines, or even just to real life applications, and creating student interest, to your subject area. Obviously, you guys are experts in your area, so you know the best way to convey the subject matter to your students, whether it be, science labs, or if things work the best in groups for certain lessons and stuff like that. Just that you're knowledgeable in that area. And then differentiating to create a variety of opportunities for students to learn, and not just doing the same thing over and over again. So really just creating different learning atmospheres, if you will, for the students to keep them engaged. Proposition 3, teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. So you guys use a variety of ways to meet instructional goals. You guys use a variety of settings and groups to meet those goals. So again, just things that you guys are already doing. Also, that you know how important it is to have student engagement and just connecting to them as individuals. And that also they're a part of their learning process. So I think maybe as teachers, we kind of forget, especially just with our general ed students, our AP students are probably pretty good at this, but just that they also take control of their own learning, and that we have a part in that. So, giving them exit slips, giving them warm-ups to assess how they think that they're doing in your class, or how they think they're knowledgeable about the things that they're learning in your class. I know even in my class, just a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, thumb in the middle, like how are we feeling about this information? Just that really quick check-in. We do that kind of stuff all the time. But just remembering that there's a purpose to all that we do. Proposition 4, teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from experience. So you guys make difficult decisions and choices every day, right? So you put your students in groups. You might put them where there's a leader in the group. You might put a strong student with a weaker student. You kind of systematically do this, even though you might not realize that you're doing it, or even think about that you're doing it, because it just comes so naturally to you guys to do those kinds of things. But you guys are doing those things. So that's really what Proposition 4 is about. And that you are analyzing how your lesson went and how to do it better next time. And then just that you're really up to date on your subject matter. So going to seminars, going to conferences, talking to your colleagues, looking at blogs, whatever it is. Just making sure that you're updated in your specific field. And then Proposition 5, so teachers are members of learning communities. And so this kind of goes into what I was just saying about, collaborating with others. So you guys collaborate with a variety of people all day, every day, right? You're collaborating with your students, your families, your colleagues, administrators, community members in some cases, even, past mentors that you have maybe, or people from other schools, whatever it is. That's really what this one is all about. And then also with the community. So anytime you take a field trip, right, that can be considered community. Anytime you bring someone into your classroom, anytime you do a virtual field trip, whatever it is. So just that you're collaborating with other learning communities. So that was the 5 core propositions. So now we're going to get into the architecture of accomplished teaching. So this is the the visual that I like to use because I think it makes the most sense. I also gave you in the first session, it's kind of like a little bullet point or a chart, a chart kind of this cycle. But we're going to go through this from the top left, and then we're going to go down around to the top right, and then we kind of just circle back around. It's kind of like this big circle that we do. And again, you guys, this is all stuff that you're doing. And I like this visual because it gives you the Danielson domain that it goes with for each one. So this is kind of just the outline of what it is, right? So the architecture of accomplished teaching. You observe, you analyze, you plan, you act, you reflect, and you do it all over again, right, guys? So we're assessing our students all the time. We're setting goals. We're instructing to gain those goals. We're evaluating their learning. We're providing timely feedback for them. We're reflecting on the student learning. We're reflecting on how we think we delivered, information, and then we set new goals, and the process kind of just starts all over again. So that's really what the architecture of accomplished teaching is about. So this first one, knowing your students in your subject area, this should seem pretty familiar because it goes along with number 1 and 5, the core propositions 1 and 5. So what you might do as a teacher to demonstrate this, establishing a good rapport with your students, families, colleagues, talking to other teachers and families, just really diving into who are your students. What are their interests? What are their needs? Recognizing that they have differences and different learning styles, and reading their IEPs if they have one, just to know how you can better support them. And even if they don't have an IEP, there's some students that just need a little extra help with things. And even though it's not in their IEP, I'm sure you guys are doing those things for those students, which are great. And really just getting to know your students on a personal level, and being able to incorporate those interests into your instruction. So, Johnny really likes, playing Warcraft or something. So maybe you're a math teacher and you're going to talk about, how one of those characters fits into a math problem or something. So you can grab your students' attention. This is also, so knowing your students in subject area. So giving them pre-assessments just to see where they're at, right? And to see what their needs are, to see what kind of goals, realistic goals you're going to have in your classroom. And then determining where to start and what to do with those things. So sometimes we have to kind of stick with the curriculum. Sometimes we have some freedom to, kind of veer off and do some other things. So really just knowing your students and kind of just weaving all of that together. And then you're going to, so like I said, you're going to start to set those learning goals. And again, this goes with the first core proposition. So what you might do as a teacher is you're setting high and worthwhile goals that can be achieved for your students. Sometimes they reach them, sometimes they don't. But that they're realistic goals that are rigorous goals, if you will. So, and they're going to be goals that are appropriate at this time in this setting for these students, because we all know different students, different classes, even different hours. Even if we are teaching the same class, a different hour could be totally different. First hour, 8th hour could be totally different than 4th hour during the middle of the day. Implementing instruction to achieve goals. So this goes along with core propositions 2 and 5. So what you guys might be doing as teachers to demonstrate this is deciding what instructional strategies would be most effective for meeting those goals, deciding what materials, people, places you might go to enhance your student learning, to really just get them involved, and then making connections to other disciplines or real life applications. So if you have a unit or a lesson, that connects to something else, that's always a good one to use when you're writing your submissions for National Board, because they always like to see that you're making those connections to real life applications. Evaluating student learning. So this goes with core proposition number 3. So what you might be doing as a teacher, you're evaluating your students' learning in relation to the instruction that you're giving. So you're determining if you're meeting your goals or the goals that you've set for your students. It could be in a variety of ways: class discussions, assignments, projects, warm-up exit slips, post-assessments. And I put kind of a little note in here is for component 4, if you guys haven't looked at that yet, there's a piece in there about student self-reflection. So like I was saying before, the students really reflecting on where they think they're at in their learning is an important piece that sometimes we might miss, and we might not do it for every lesson, and that's okay. But for overall units, we definitely want to be doing this. And so just be aware that for component 4 that you do need to do some kind of student self-reflection. So if you have a lesson coming up that you think you're going to be writing about for your submission, just make sure you also have that piece that goes along with that. And you guys, that could be as simple as an exit slip, right? So, I mean, I have it on the list here, the warm-ups and exit slips. These are obviously just all examples that I'm giving you guys of things that you might already be doing that you could write about. But an exit slip would be, a self-reflection. Obviously, you can go above and beyond that. I've talked to a few of you about doing that, and just how you're going to incorporate that into your submission. But it could be just as simple as an exit slip. And then providing timely and meaningful feedback to your students. So this goes along with core proposition 3. So what you might be doing as a teacher is giving your students feedback on things that you've done in your class, right? So class discussions, you're giving them instant verbal feedback in that case. Assignments, they might get a grade, or if it's a writing, you might have comments on it or something like that. Their projects or presentations, again, maybe grades, comments, verbal feedback. And you can just, you can see the list here. But just keep in mind that when you're going to be submitting your writing, that you will have to talk about how you're giving your students feedback. And then reflect on your teaching practice. So this goes along with core proposition number 4. So what you might be doing as a teacher, and you might be doing this, on the fly in the moment, and you might be reflecting and think about future lessons or what you could do better next time. But I feel like a lot of the times, as teachers, we have to reflect in the moment. We really observe our students and see kind of like where they're at, and change our lessons in the moment if we need to. So you're analyzing how you can make things better. You're changing what you need to teach and how you need to teach it. You're determining if you need to take a step backwards in some cases, right? So you might be teaching them something. You might give them some kind of assessment. You go, oh man, that did not go well. We got to go back and reteach that, right? So sometimes we have to take a step backwards, and that's okay. That's what we do as teachers sometimes. And you're not failing. That's what good teachers do. So if that's, what you want to write about, that's okay too. And then determining if there's any kind of extensions or supplements that can be incorporated. So, the students who are getting the information quickly and retaining the information quickly, or the skills that you're working on really just enhancing their learning and giving them some extra things that kind of go above and beyond maybe what kind of generally you're doing in your classroom kind of thing. And then we set new learning goals. So this goes along with core proposition 3. So what you might be doing is analyzing student evaluation of learning. So through observations, grades, etc. You're always analyzing, how your students are doing. And then when you kind of gather that data, then you set new high goals for them. And so, after you have set your original goal and you do your lesson and you analyze and you reflect, what's the new goal, right? At this time, at this setting for these students. So again, could be different, first hour, fourth hour, eighth hour. Doesn't have to be, the same. And for each student too, it doesn't have to be the same for each student either. So again, you just use all of this new information that you've gathered about your students and start the process all over again. So the architecture of accomplished teaching is really just this, this never-ending circle that we kind of do as teachers. So we've got the 5 core propositions and the architecture of accomplished teaching. Again, this slideshow and these 2 images I made PDFs so that you guys can have those, print them if you need them. If you're the kind of person that likes to print things out, have them in a binder, whatever it is. So that's really all I have for this virtual meeting. Again, your one-stop shop is this link here. So if you need anything, you're just going to go there. Our important dates for second-year candidates, your score release is going to be on or before December 31st for the components that you did, those 2 components that you did last year, which were 1 and 3. If you want to change your certificate or specialty area, that has to be done by February 28th. I guess sometimes when people start diving into what they have to write about, they might change their specialty area, because there's a couple of different areas for each subject matter, I guess. And sometimes people switch to, you can just do a general, I don't know what it's called, I forget, but it's just like a general national board certification. So if you're interested in that, or feeling like you might need to change your specialty area, please come find me. We can talk about it, and we can sit down and maybe look at what would maybe be a better fit for you. The big one is going to be the e-portfolio submission. So that's when you're uploading everything onto the website and submitting it to National Board. So that window is going to be April 1st through May 15th of 2019. And then that submission that you give, your score release date will be December 31st of 2019. So I don't know, maybe they take the summer off. I'm not really sure why it takes so long, you guys, but it does. So, all right. And then, so our next meeting is going to be on October 25th. It's going to be at LCHS at Lake. So I'm going to try to just keep flip-flopping so that we, the same people don't have to keep traveling. So our next meeting is going to be October 25th. So this is the slide I think that's maybe going to be helpful for most of you. You guys said you would like me to kind of come up with a timeline of where you should maybe be. So this is kind of your timeline, if you will, maybe of where you should be at. So you should have already gotten your student release form signed. If you didn't, make sure you do that as soon as possible for as many students as you can, because then you can just kind of pull and grab from whoever you need to. And then you should have already looked at component number 2 and then your content standards. So that's for your specific content area. And if you have any questions about that, please just come and see me. So kind of what you should be doing next is, hopefully you already started thinking about it, but now it's kind of time to really decide what lessons or students you think you're going to feature for component 2. And again, it's going to be different depending on your content area. Some people are going to have to talk about one student, maybe 2 students. There might even be where you have to talk about 3 students for some of you. So really just kind of trying to decide what lesson and what students you're going to, feature for your component 2. And then you should start looking at the component 4 instructions, because like I said, there's that student self-assessment reflection piece in there that sometimes we're not the greatest at. And so just be aware that you need for component 4, you're going to need 3 types of assessments given. And in your instructions, it's specific, it might be a 3-week to 3-month window, or it might be within 12 weeks. It has to be, where you're giving these assessments. So formative, a student self-assessment or reflection piece, and a summative. So it's most likely going to be over the course of, a unit. Just really look at those timelines to make sure you're within those timelines. And then think about what lessons or students you might want to feature for component 4. So once you look at those instructions, just kind of start thinking about, what you might want to feature. And I kind of put a suggestion in here that your slow might be something good to write about, because it kind of just weaves nicely into your submission, all the questions that you're going to have to answer. And you're already going to have all that data and all of that stuff gathered up for your slow anyway. So, why create more work, right? So if you think that that's, a good lesson or unit to write about, I would definitely consider, writing about that. And then just starting to collect your evidence for components 2 and 4. Component 4, if possible. You might not have decided what you want to do for that one yet, and that's totally fine. But definitely start, if you're getting, if you're not sure what lesson you're going to do, and it's always a good idea to collect, evidence for more than one lesson, more than one unit, because then when you go to write, you have a couple of different variety of things that you can write about. Just kind of makes it easier for you. All right, guys. So again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Email me, whatever you need to do. And I will see you guys on October 25th.